This video is, I have been asked to clarify some things that I put out in some recent videos. Okay. First, I have stated in other videos that there is no such thing as sin. That is true. In one of the recent videos I posted, I said that homosexuality is not sin, but that rape is sin. Okay. So the clarification I need make is of terms or words or labels as we define them. So we will revisit this again. Sin. Sin is an idea or a concept created in the human mind. It is of the earth. It is of the earth. So it is of this 3D reality plane of existence experience. Once we are no longer incarnate in a human body on this plane, we still exist beyond this human experience. When no longer in the human form, when we have left the human body and we become fully aware again of who we are, what we're doing here, the reality of the totality of life, sin does not exist. I understand that as long as we are in human form, there are those who will believe that sin, or will not be able to drop that label, that word, sin or sinfulness. Humans use the word sin to describe something that they feel is wrong or harmful or negative. There are behaviors here. There are those who will act in certain ways, who will behave in certain ways that will seem to cause harm. People will behave in ways that seem to affect others in an unpleasant way. Now, having said that, what we don't understand when we are in human form, oftentimes, is that the scope of what is really occurring is so much bigger than the individuated human experience. From the reality nearer the totality of life, we are all Christ incarnate. So we are all Christ, a form of Christ consciousness. We are all an aspect of the one, Father, Mother, God, that has taken on human form here or forms elsewhere. But we remain part of that Christ consciousness. We could expand that further out, but that would be more harm than good at this point, I think, for many. So anyone, let's just say those who we come in contact with in this human experience are a member of the body of Christ in a sense. So no matter what their form looks like, they are an aspect of Christ consciousness. And it is the Christ consciousness which gave rise to, again, words, everything that you will see, hear, feel, touch, taste, experience. God, Father, Mother, God is the all that gave rise to the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness being that creative force that is made in the image of the one creator, which is Father, Mother, God, utilize the power of God as inherited to create everything that we will ever experience as a human, and to participate in it, to play with it, to play in it. So when we say sin, we could say, I do really like this term. I've heard another use it, bad actors. So you will have those who will be bad actors. They will do things that we perceive as bad. They will behave in these ways. Okay. The reason we can't call it sin and that sin is not real is once you leave the human form and the veil of forgetting has been lifted and you know who you are and you know why you came and you know that everyone is also you, that the unity, the truth of unity is that we are closer than any brother or sister could ever be. Even those who are as far away or most remote from you, once out of this physical form, the human form, we are closer, and we know this. A thought away, not even a thought away. And because by then there's no breath needed, right? So we can't say a breath away, but we are not even a thought away from one another. And our individuation, the parts of us that seem to be different, in other words, are so reduced because we then see reality more completely. We know that we're all made of the same stuff. And when we incarnate into human form, that does not change. We are still all made of the same stuff, coming from the same place, having the same origin, birthed at the same time, no one having greater anything than another. And we come and we take on human form with the help of our other counterparts who, their bodies give birth to our bodies, and on and on and on. So when I say something like, the sin is in this, okay, I will say that because that term sin is used by someone else, and I am attempting to I'm attempting to bridge the gap between truth and untruth. I'm attempting to use the same terminology, the same words, the same labels to illuminate what is not seen. Okay? So, in truth, there is no such thing as sin. There is behavior. There is happenings. There are actions. But, and at the level of spirit, these are not quantified as bad or good, right or wrong. They are not. At that level, let me back step a little bit here. Now, what you hear is a great encouraging among many of us to forgive. So much speaking of forgiving, much speaking of acceptance, much speaking of letting go of what no longer serves us. This is the new stage of our growth as the consciousness that is awakening to the reality of Christ consciousness. This is yet another stepping stone to reach just a bit closer to truth. But we must take it in stages, because the totality of reality is more than I can explain right now, and more than most minds would be able to process, let alone accept. And integration of these concepts is difficult enough when we're taking these little baby steps. So, and not to get too far off topic, but the reason I say that is, once we begin to become aware of these new concepts, and as they resonate truth to us, we can become overwhelmed and frightened, because the truth is really so far from what we have been conditioned into believing. So we take it little steps at a time. So right now we are speaking of, many of us are talking about forgiveness. Acceptance is another way of saying that. Because true acceptance, when you truly accept a thing as it is, that is forgiveness. When you are no longer attempting to change that which has occurred, or to change a thing that already is a certain way, true acceptance is forgiveness. It is forgiveness. If there is resentment, if there is something else, it is because we have not really accepted the reality of what is. Okay? So having said that, we talk much about forgiveness, acceptance, and letting go, so that we can move into a world that is more like the heaven, the realms outside of human earthly incarnation. And all that really means is that we are asking ourselves to elevate our minds to the level where these concepts and ideas can become part of our daily living. When we learn well how to forgive, when we learn well how to let go, when we learn well how to completely accept, this is how we get away from judgment. And there are those who will say, but if we get away from judgment, who will hold anyone accountable? Okay, so as our minds move away from judgment and we align with forgiveness, we naturally become more Christed, or our Christ lives more fully in the physical form, through the physical form, not in, through the physical form. And I have said before, then Christ is driving the car being the human form, this vessel speaking. Now, when that occurs, I have heard someone else say this recently. I will say it in this way, and then I will explain. When that occurs, we will feel more protected. We will feel more confident. We will feel safer. And we are. And the reason that we are is because if we look at the human experience from a quantum level, we're going to look at everything as energy. Now, here's where your law of attraction comes into play. Wherever you are vibing is what you are attracting. So, where you are living in your energetic frequency, your resonance, you will attract the like. Okay, so we'll say in dimensions, all right? If a being is living in the fifth dimension, someone in the third dimension is unlikely to even be aware of their presence. So how that translates here is if you have someone who is still warring, attacking, fighting, belittling, cursing, abusing, and then you have accepted and have assimilated into your beingness in human form forgiveness, acceptance, then you are resonating at a level that you may not even come into contact in that way with a person who is warring, condemning, crucifying, etc. Birds of a feather flock together, sort of, okay? So, and here's how we can also integrate the things that you hear when we say you are creating the world, or I have also written on Facebook, there is no world outside of you. We are projecting our internal onto what seems to be the external. So if you are love and light and you are vibrating at love and light level, your experience will be love and light because it's almost another world from a lower vibrational frequency experience. Has been explained in another way. So as we fell from grace, which isn't, we didn't really fall from grace, but as we fell, which means we devolved in frequency, we became denser. We forgot much of our abilities for many reasons. For example, if you devolved in a sense into these lower frequencies and you became so dense as to take on the third dimensional form, if you were still able to levitate and to take yourself from here to there in, the blink of an eye, and your mind was in that lower frequency, the capacity to do many destructive things, that potential would outweigh the good. And so it's good in a sense that we have not remembered our superhuman abilities before we reach a consciousness level where we will actually use them for what we would call good, for the benefit of all. There are those that were able to tap into these abilities through other methods, as I understand it. and they used it to serve themselves. And so, that is what they chose to do with it. But imagine if there are 8 billion people on this planet and we all had that ability and we were all using these abilities for service to self and not service to others. Well, we may be in a much more precarious situation than where we are even now. So okay, that explains the word sin being used. Hold on one second, please.